We're going to get started. We'll all the action that's taken today will be that of a communique from the chair. If that is okay, Mr. City Attorney. Today's the 16th of July. Again, welcome everybody to the committee. We have, I want to say, 11 items on today's agenda, 10 of which we can move quickly. There'll be one item that we may have some discussion on. With that said, Ms. Barclay, why don't you begin by reading? In fact, we're going to jump around a little bit. Why don't we do? It's my understanding that item 2, there's an amendment on item 2. So why don't we do item 2 first, and then we'll do item 10. It's my understanding there's an amendment there as well, and then we'll roll through the other ones.
Yes.
It's a test.
Okay.
It's a test.
Item 2 is a report from the CRA and the Chief Legislative Analyst relative to a pre-development loan agreement for the development of Venice Hope Recreation Center. And the amendment requested is to state that site-specific revenues from this project will solely be used to repay the general revenue funding sources, excuse me.
Okay, so with that said, we'll adopt the CLA report as amended. Mr. City Clerk, you got that?
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay, it's a test. I'm testing you today. Item 10.
Item 10 is a motion, Perry Garcetti, relative to amending the council's action of May 6th, adopting an ordinance to regulate the demolition and conversion of residential hotel units. And the requested amendment is that the city attorney, a request to the city attorney to include in the ordinance a process to clarify, language to clarify the process by which the Los Angeles Housing Department determines which hotels in the city are subject to the ordinance.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Then on item 10, we will adopt that motion as amended. Mr. City Attorney, as a communique from the chair. That brings us to item 1.
Item 1 is a report from the Community Redevelopment Agency relative to a Proposition K grant agreement for the development of the Venice Hope Recreation Center. This item was actually taken care of in item 2, so we recommend that it be received and filed.
Okay, so then item 1 will receive and file the CRA report. Item 3.
Oh, excuse me, hold on. Item 3 is a report from the CRA and the CLA relative to various actions to the award of contracts for the upgrade, expansion, installation, and maintenance of a security surveillance system throughout the Goodyear Industrial Tract.
Any amendments on this one?
No, sir.
You sure?
Positive.
Okay, Mr. City Clerk, are you hiding an amendment over there that we don't know about?
No, sir.
Okay, good. You guys are doing pretty good today. Then on item 3, we'll adopt the CLA report. Item 4.
Item 4 is a report from the CRA and the CAO relative to purchase orders and contracts totaling $9.46 million for various goods and services for fiscal year 2008-2009.
Okay, we'll adopt the CAO report on that. Item 5.
Item 5 is a report from the CRA and the CAO relative to awarding a contract to Canoga Park Improvement Association to administer a glass replacement and anti-graffiti treatment program in the downtown Canoga Park Central Business District.
Okay, on item 5, we'll adopt the CAO report as well. That brings us to item 6.
Item 6 are reports from the CRA and the CLA relative to amending the owner participation agreement for the development of a residential project on North Vineland Avenue.
Okay, then on item 6, we will adopt the CLA report. Item 7.
Item 7 is a report from the Community Development Department and the CAO relative to the issuance of tax-exempt revenue bonds to benefit Penny Lane centers. And there is a technical amendment on this that's been provided to the clerk.
So on item 7, we'll adopt the CAO report with the technical amendment. Item 8.
Item 8 is a motion, Reyes-Perry, relative to adjusting the Los Angeles Conservation Corps' service contracts for the Good Beginnings Early Childhood Education Program.
And the motion was by who?
Councilmember Reyes.
And who seconded it?
Councilwoman Perry.
Have I ever suggested that we not move forward on any of their requests that are reasonable?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, then let's keep that string
All
going.
right.
So we'll adopt the motion. Item 9.
Item 9 is a motion.
Mr. City Clerk, are you laughing at me?
No, sir.
Item 9.
Item 9 is a motion, Perry Garcetti, relative to amending the 2008 Permanent Supportive Housing Program Notice of a funding availability to extend the submittal deadline.
Okay, then on item 9, we will adopt the motion. So, Mr. City Attorney, let's let the record reflect that these actions will all be taken as a communique from the chair. Okay, Ms. Barclay, that brings us to item 11. Could you please read item 11?
Item 11 is a motion, Parks Garcetti Alarcon, relative to investigating eviction practices involving any foreclosed rent stabilization ordinance rental properties.
I believe we have individuals here to give us a report on this, and if they will come forward. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Roberto Aldapi. I'm the...
Roberto, did you watch the All-Star game last night?
No, I did not.
Did you read about it in the newspaper?
No, I did not.
Roberto's getting off to a shaky start.
The All-Star Game represents the starting of football season.
Okay. We've just been joined by Council Member Jan Perry. So, go ahead.
Okay. I am
And welcome.
Thank you. I'm the Assistant General Manager for the Rent, Code Enforcement, and Compliance Division of the Los Angeles Housing Department. I want to thank the committee for the opportunity for the department to respond to the motion that was presented by Council President Garcetti and Council Members Parks and Alarcon in regards to foreclosures as it relates to tenants or residents, specifically those tenants who reside in rent stabilization ordinance properties, otherwise known as RSO. You know, it's no secret that the foreclosure crisis presents serious challenge to the city of Los Angeles and its constituents. At the department, we're focusing presently, while our home ownership group staff is focusing on home ownership, at the rent division, we're focusing on primarily two issues: evictions as it relates to foreclosures, and foreclosures as it relates to utility shutoffs. And we develop a two-pronged approach in regards to a strategy to deal with these issues. And one of the approaches, we believe education and outreach is critical, and the other approach is enforcement is critical. And to that end, we developed a strategy to address those issues. We think that in the city of Los Angeles, lenders, particularly the issue that was raised at the Van Ness case about 2 weeks ago, lenders are not aware of what their responsibilities are under the rent stabilization ordinance. And to that end, we're undertaking a plan to educate those lenders. We're prepared to send out a letter to all lenders, brokers, real estate brokers, and asset managers, signed by our general manager, Mercedes Marquez, in regards to informing the owners, these folks, what their responsibilities are under the RSO. It's no secret, and it's very clear in the RSO, that simply because a building is foreclosed on does not give the right for owners or property banks to evict tenants residing in rent stabilization ordinance units. It's very clear in the ordinance, as stated forth in the motion presented by Garcetti last week. We are, in addition to sending out the letters, we've amassed a database that's going to identify by an email blast this letter informing the banks of their responsibilities. But in addition, that letter will say two things. One, what the responsibilities are under the RSO, and then two, we're going to be inviting them to a training that we'll be conducting probably sometime in mid-August regarding what the responsibilities are under the RSO as it relates to foreclosures and tenants residing in those units. We believe that the second prong is education to tenants. And to that end, last week, we met with our Rent Escrow Account Program outreach coordinators, Coalition for Economic Survival, Inquilinos Unidos, and those folks. And we wanted to discuss with them what they see on the ground as their scope of problem, and to discuss with them what their strategies are in order to address tenants being illegally being evicted from the rent stabilization ordinance properties. And they're taking an approach of organizing educational seminars as well as filing litigation in court, preventing banks and lenders from evicting on grounds that are not recognized under the RSO. So we'll continue to meet with the tenant advocates to provide outreach to tenants, informing the tenants of what their rights are under the RSO. In addition to education to lenders and tenants, we believe that education to the city family is important as well. And to that end, we'll be doing a briefing for the mayor's office, council offices, and other departments in regards to what the RSO is and what the lenders can do under foreclosure situations in that regards. Generally, what we've done this week is that we prepared bulletins to post on our website, and we prepared informational sheets that will be given to our 6 public counters as well as other department venues, informing the public of what the rent stabilization ordinance is and what their rights are under foreclosure situations. So we believe education and outreach is important. And in regards to enforcement, we are meeting with our city attorney tomorrow to discuss how we can utilize.
Who did watch the All-Star game? And just to stop you for 1 minute, I've been joined by council members Ed Reyes and Council President Eric Garcetti. We do have a quorum.
In regards to the enforcement, in the rent division, we have an investigation enforcement unit, which is 26 strong housing investigators and senior housing investigators. And if complaints come in regarding illegal eviction, we will investigate. If in fact there is no compliance by virtue of our work, we would then refer that case over to the city attorney's office. And we were looking at, in our discussion tomorrow, what we will be discussing will be ways to streamline that process after we package a case and refer it to the city attorney's office to prevent the eviction. As we saw in the Van Ness building, with the work of the housing department, with the work of the city attorney's office, the bank rescinded their notice of eviction, and the tenants were able to remain in possession. So that's the enforcement part of it. In regards to foreclosures and utilities, what we're seeing is that the owner is walking away from the property. The banks have not accepted the property yet because it's still in the foreclosure process, the default process, and the utilities are not being paid. We met with the Department of Water and Power, with their senior staff, their customer service senior staff, day before yesterday, to begin discussion in regards to strategy in terms of how to prevent the utilities shut off to begin with. And what do we do when the utilities are shut off? In regards to how do we prevent the utilities shut off, we've agreed on certain, informally, tentatively, procedures by which the Department of Water and Power will inform the housing department of potential shutoffs. The process that they have now is they send us a list, and within 30 days, there's a first notice that's posted, a second notice that's posted, and 5 days after the second notice, the utility is shut off. Of course, DWP has certain processes whereby certain situations may dictate the shutoff, that they will not shut off. For example, if it's 100 degrees outside, they'll assess that, will not shut off the utility if air conditioning is an issue. So we met with them. We'll continue to meet with the Department of Water and Power. We've discussed not only the utility shutoff prevention, but as you well know, in the department we have a utility maintenance program, whereby we get a referral from the Department of Water and Power regarding a potential shutoff. And once we get that referral, we will then open up a case and send our outreach folks to go out and request that the tenants pay into an escrow account, whereby then we will pay the Department of Water and Power the bill to prevent the shutoff. And so we worked ways in terms of streamlining that process in regards to this foreclosure crisis. In regards to the other utility, the non-power, water and power, we're discussing with the gas company a meeting sometimes next week to discuss how we prevent gas shutoffs. So we believe that's an important step by which to deal with this foreclosure crisis.
Okay. City Attorney?
Just here to answer questions and discuss the All-Star Game if requested.
Okay. I understand you are a New Yorker. I still think it's a heck of a way to go out. I wish it would have lasted 16 innings, because as Andrew and I were talking, they were running out of pitchers. Mr. President, they might have flown you in to get the final out. Any questions?
Just a quick thing. Just wanted to thank you guys. The Van Ness press conference and Mr. Park's office was great, and the city attorney's office in housing. It was really good example of cooperation, and I've been trying to spread the word with my colleagues that there's a lot. We have 3 pages full of just on Countrywide, I believe it is, right?
That's correct.
Mortgages that are held. Go through those, talk to your district staffs, and see if people are getting notices to move out illegally, because a lot of the companies that are being hired by Countrywide and others don't know those rules or are breaking them consciously. We're trying to sort that out. So we had the only reason these women came into contact with us is that one of their mothers happens to work for Cheryl Parisi, so they knew to call the City of Los Angeles and the City Attorney's Office. But if that's somebody who's extremely well informed, imagine the hundreds or thousands of people who are getting moved out right now. And appreciate the work with DWP too, because we had a case in our district, and we just got the power on, I think, yesterday. Is that right? Where it was a foreclosed property, and we had the utilities out for some time. So, I won't discuss any of the case stuff, but I trust and hope and know that any civil or criminal cases, the investigation is ongoing, and that serves as a real warning to all companies that are doing this, and we should spread that word as well, that under rent stabilization ordinance, pre-1978 building, you cannot be moved out just because the property is foreclosed. There's some confusion because people thought that they were given $1,000 and then it was just that the amount was too low and it's supposed to be $6,000. It can be $100,000. You do not have to move out, period, unless it's one of the normal good faith evictions, which happens no matter who owns it. So thank you all for the good work on it.
Thank you.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes, I also want to say thanks for your hard work. There's a lot of insight that you're sharing with us. But as I look at the evolution of this process, with all this turbulence out there in the market and titles changing hands or everything up in the air, my assumption is that there will be other speculators who will come in, look at these addresses, and want to pick up some of these properties, and in the process start moving people out to raise the rents. Knowing that could be happening on the horizon, shouldn't we be more proactive in understanding where these sites are located and perhaps start mapping them out so that we can strategically look at our own districts and say, this is where we have to be proactive in informing people, having community meetings, block meetings? Could we put ourselves in a position to understand, given the addresses you already have, where these trends are occurring? Do we have that capacity?
Yes, we do have the capacity. In fact, our home ownership division of the Housing Department is accessing the database, which is updated daily, of those properties that are foreclosed and where they exist in the city of Los Angeles.
So-
This foreclosure, President Garcetti mentioned, this foreclosure it deals with issues of lenders who really do not know. They really do not know to begin with, that the property is subject to the RSO, let alone what the RSO is and what it involves. And then there are some lenders, realtors and asset managers, who actually do know. But nevertheless, they may intentionally try to play the odds that they will send out the notice. For example, in the Van Ness case, but for the fact that they had not received information, they may have taken the $1,000 cash for keys and moved out. And they play the odds and that's why we're talking with the city attorney's office to put the E back in enforcement and try to figure out a strategy to deal with those issues. But specifically, in answer to your question, Councilmember Reyes, we do have the capacity to access this data and map it and specifically know where the trends are in terms of foreclosures.
I would just formally request if I can get a map of these addresses in my district and perhaps the other districts where you have a propensity of this activity, and at least give us a heads up as to where these things are occurring. I was at one meeting near USC, and they actually were given a whole street where methodically that whole street was being, people being displaced. And so you had family members, you had neighbors that were there for 20, 25 years, 30 years being told they had to leave.
Absolutely.
And nothing against USC, it has nothing to do with USC, it just happens to be there because of the whole student housing issue. And so we needed to respond, and we're trying to see, okay, what's being done here, how's it being done, how the tenant's being affected. So we're going through that process. But now that it's the whole industry going through this turbulence, I can only imagine what's happening throughout the city. So we can at least have a proactive approach, understanding where it's occurring. It might help us.
And when we do the briefing for the council offices, we're going to be talking strategy or potential strategy and how to address the issue. I know this Saturday, Council President Garcetti is having an event specifically regarding foreclosures of the housing department. It's agreed to attend, but we can report back and provide that mapping list for you.
Great, thank you.
Ms. Perry, did you?
No, I'll make arrangements for him to come into my planning group.
Okay,
Thank
then.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Then without objection, we will adopt that motion. If the members of the committee don't, we moved on the other items, and we can allow you to be counted as I vote on those unless there's a concern. So, Mr. City Attorney, with that, all of the actions would have been moved by this community.
Correct.
Unanimous fashion. Ms. Barkley, is there any more business before this committee?
No, sir.
This committee is adjourned. Let it be written, so let it be done.
They would ask that.
It's incomplete without that.
I forgot. Doggone it.
For the underwriter.
I'm gonna get a new one. I like it though. Watch the underwriter.
Continuity.
Okay, Andrew, let's go. It's downstairs.